Welcome to the week 4 go-to session. This is the final session of the month. Yay! Okay, and as I told you, this is going to be a short session. So for people watching, you can also breathe a sigh of relief. I'm going to try to keep this under half an hour because I mostly have just reminders to offer. That's why this presentation is titled Peer Review and Final Reminders for this class. Let me blow this up to slideshow mode, even though I'll probably have to get away from it pretty quickly. Yeah, other presentations I've used Keynote, but here's PowerPoint, and I'm mostly following the principles of this class. Yeah, I chose a template, and I'm using the sort of title function here. I would get rid of this if I... Why is Latasha saying boo? I hope you're not booing me. I hope that's sadness over the end of the class. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, I chose a template, so I'm clicking and adding text, but that's fine. This is a different kind of printed presentation. Obviously, if I were making a snazzier presentation, I would absolutely completely follow the concepts for this class, so I would probably stretch and make this team success photo that I really like, by the way, bigger. By the way, can you see the photo credit at the bottom? You can make your photo credits, your image credits, very small. Here it is. Can you see my cursor? I'm kind of circling it. You see it now? Okay. You can do that. You can make it very small. And as Samantha says, just barely. That's fine. The image credit is there for those who really want to see it, right? And if they look really, really close, they can kind of read it, or they can go in there and highlight it. But yeah, I could maybe make it a shade lighter so it stands out a touch more. Maybe I am making it a little bit too invisible. But the point here is, yeah, you want it to blend into the background. It should be there, but you don't want it to be distracting. And yeah, I've succeeded because everybody said, no, what are you talking about? What image credit? Yet it's there. Actually, let me see. Can you bear with me? And I promise I will get through the material quickly, but let me just try something out. Okay? No, I don't want to end training. I just want to get out of the presentations. There we go. Okay, so if I go into this, right, and highlight everything, go to my font colors, right, I can choose one of these colors, which I did. Let's see what happens if I take it one shade lighter. Yeah, see, that stands out too much. I don't want that. So I'll go back to that color. And if I want to be really picky, I can go into this color wheel here. And it's already set to the color I want, so I can drag it and make it a shade lighter and see if that does anything. Click OK. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit better. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, maybe that's more acceptable. Now you could not argue that the photo credit is not there, but it's still largely invisible. People's eyes are not going to be drawn here. So you can do the same thing with your presentations, okay? Or if you want to save photo credits for the very end, like a list of credits, that's fine too. But yeah, I do need image credits so I can make sure that they're coming from allowable sources. And as you can see, all of mine come from compfight.com. And this team success image is really cool. So yeah, there's some good stuff out there if you hunt for it. I'm okay if you go to other Creative Commons type sources, but I just need that image credit so I can definitely check. Here I didn't do as good of a job. It's probably sticking out way too much. Oops. Well, I won't go into it. We'll just we'll move forward. Anyway, one of the big things this week is peer review. Okay, so everybody should have put their presentation draft onto the peer review board. And actually, I'm going to get away from the presentation for 1 second and go to the board. Looks like 13 people have. That means about 5 people haven't. So hopefully they'll watch this lecture and be reminded. Okay, so yeah, you just have to share your presentation. I mean, it'd be awesome. I don't know about PowerPoint. Other people maybe can comment. I've never tried it myself. If there's a way to get PowerPoint, I don't think there is, right? Has anybody tried to get it to literally just appear as a presentation? I don't think so. There is a program that I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I've used before, which will take your PowerPoint presentation. So it is in a format, so it just opens and you can click through it. But I don't think, yeah, but videos sometimes can open up directly in. Somebody here has one. Yeah, Helen has one, right? Helen, you asked me, I need to get a player to open this, but yeah, I can get to it. Same thing with Tiernan. Okay, but just make sure your presentation's on there. If we have to click it and open it, that's fine. And then you have to respond to, I'm asking for at least 2 responses. William messaged me today saying, wait a second, the instructions say 3. Yes, they say 3, but so many discussions in this class require, and you'll get used to this in every class you take, it's almost always the same. discussions require an initial post, and then you respond to at least 2 of your classmates. And yeah, students push back too hard when I take off points because they didn't do a third one. So at least 2. If you're having fun and want to go crazy, yeah, respond to 3 or 4 or 5. Some people really get into it. They like looking at presentations. I will insist that the 2 commentaries, the 2 critiques, should be pretty in-depth, right? You're trying your best to give feedback. You're doing more than just saying good job. Where is it that it says 3 classmates? I mean, I believe William. He said it said somewhere in here. Respond to 3 people. There it is. You'll receive feedback from 3 of your classmates. So yeah, if you can at least do 2 and they're thoughtful and they're helpful, that's good enough for me. Okay. And yes, I was supposed to assign you to groups, but that just never works out well. I know the creative presentation department wants that, but it's just a pain because then I assign you people, and then you sometimes get assigned to someone who doesn't put their draft on the board, and it just turns just make sure that you respond to 2 people and try to give attention to those who have not yet received feedback. So not just the person whose name appears at the top of the discussion board gets like a dozen responses while other people are getting none. Okay. And you also have some helpful material. So here's a peer feedback assessment guide, and it's really common sense stuff like, yeah, what do you think is working? What parts aren't, or what parts do you find are confusing? Based on what we've learned this month, do you have any advice to give? Okay. So as long as you're answering these prompts with some care, you should be fine. I think you should probably be doing that anyway. You have other, let me close this and this. You have other tools like the RISE model. I should stress this more because you're going to see the RISE model again and again and again in class after class. And some instructors are pretty rigorous in terms of if your responses are not following the RISE model, they'll take points off. But I do like the RISE model, but students sometimes, I don't know, it seems sort of, what's the word? Too academic, too formal. It's not that there isn't good information here, and you get examples of what RISE stands for and how you should be phrasing things so that you're always writing quality responses. But I'm fine if students can create thoughtful responses intuitively or just using their own brain power. I think if you were taking the time to look at someone's work and responding with care, you're probably doing a lot of this anyway. Okay, but you do have this tool to use as well. In fact, that kind of leads me back to my presentation because I just have some quick pointers to make out about giving feedback. Okay, so yeah, feedback tip number 1 is be positive, which is, yeah, be positive in tone, but also make sure that you are pointing out what's working well in a presentation. Sometimes people aren't even trying to come across as harsh or mean, but that's sometimes the image one can have if we just jump right into here's what's wrong and fix this and fix that. So yeah, be sure to point out what's effective, what's actually working well in a presentation, because in every draft there's going to be something that's working well. Even if it's, maybe they're on the right path, maybe there's a lot of potential that's not fully being realized, but maybe you can see what it is going to become. So yeah, feedback tip number 1, be sure you point out what's working well. Number 2, be specific. Okay, it's not enough to say, oh, well, there were certain parts where I felt confused. Which parts? Right? And if you can even be specific in terms of looking at a specific slide, maybe the way things are worded are slightly confusing. Or maybe you see an image and some wording, but you're not sure what it's communicating, right? It's supposedly matching what the speaker is saying. Or if there's no voiceover and they provided notes or a script, you can't quite see the connection between the image and the message. You can certainly point that out and explain why. As I've been saying to some people, yeah, it's not that the images aren't just decoration. They're not just backdrops. They shouldn't be functioning as like just a generic slideshow or a photo album slideshow, right, where it's just images that are sort of in the background for you to look at. No, the images should be doing work. Like they should be connecting with what you're saying. Right? They should be reinforcing what you're saying. Or perhaps there's something about your slide that's crucial that the audience has to consider. An image a diagram, a sample of your work. It's not that every slide is necessarily going to be doing that, but at the very least, there should be a clear connection between what's being seen and what you're saying. So here, for example, and I think I even mentioned this image last week. Yeah, look, gorgeous image. I love this image. The dart in the center of the dartboard, right? That's a pretty good image to capture this idea of being specific, right? Targeting what you're saying. So yeah, I think this image works pretty well with what I want to say here. So make sure that you're doing the same, okay, in your presentations. And make sure that when you're giving feedback that you're being very, very specific. I'm already seeing some good examples of that on the peer review board, where people are even looking at, yeah, how somebody has worded something and saying, I'm confused, or I'm not sure how you got from here to here. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, I remember in week 1, remember I encouraged you, always look at your work from the point of view of a stranger. I'm honest. Sit down, look at your presentation, pretend you're not you. Pretend you've just come across somebody's presentation. You should be able to make sense out of it. Even though you know nothing about the class in theory, or you don't know what the specific project is, you should be able to watch it and go, oh, okay, this is someone who's presenting themselves to someone, probably a potential employer. And yes, I understand everything that's happening, and it makes sense. If you truly look at your work from that perspective, you can catch a lot of issues. So honestly, try it. I always say that, but I think so few people actually do it. Yeah, feedback tip number 3. When you do offer suggestions for advice, criticism, critique, use softeners and qualifiers, okay? And that means kind of what the pillows are spelling out here. We should cushion what we're saying. Doesn't mean that we're not sincere. It doesn't mean that we're not being direct, but we soften, right? You may not realize it, but I do that all the time. So I'll say, I was a bit confused here, or I was a little unsure, right? I'm trying not to say things directly like, I was confused, or I didn't understand. I think a lot of people know this, but it's especially important because obviously we're not doing this face-to-face. We don't meet in a physical classroom, and you're all super aware of the internet, social media, and you've seen plenty of examples where people can get enraged, argue, storm off because they've taken something the wrong way. And that's just because, yeah, you don't have tone of voice to hear. You don't have facial expressions like someone smiling. So that could, in other words, when we're face to face, we have other ways to soften and qualify what we say. That's nonverbal. But because we only have words to use, yeah, we have to soften what we say. True, there are other things, right? Emojis that can do the trick as well. Yes, Helen, conversation etiquette. Yeah, but it's important. It's amazing how many people sometimes forget about that. And I'm honest. Sometimes they're really not trying to come across as harsh or mean. It just comes out that way. So, okay, some reminders. These are reminders for the final presentation, which is due this Sunday. I just sent out. Did I send out an announcement? Yeah, I did. That I'm grading drafts today and tomorrow. Okay, so everybody will have, at the very least, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to continue working on the presentations and polish it up for the final. But that is due Sunday at midnight. So here's some quick reminders. We've discussed these things throughout the month, so I'm just going to breeze through them. Remember the basics, 3 to 5 minute presentation. I think the assignment sheet actually says 3 to 4 minutes, but I stretch it 3 to 5. You probably shouldn't be going over 4 minutes. 5 minutes is actually a long presentation, but if you need that space and everything truly is terrific and engaging, I'm not going to take off points because it goes over 4. You're a recent Full Sail graduate, right? We're all on this page. You're presenting yourself to a prospective employer. Make sure that you choose a proper presentation tool, okay? So PowerPoint, Keynote, Prezi, screen recording software. I don't see that too much. Literally, even a program as simple as QuickTime, you can record whatever your movements are on the screen. And then, yeah, I'm a big fan of film editing software. And yeah, I've talked about that enough, right? That you can use a tool like iMovie or Windows Movie Maker, and have it do what a traditional presentation software can use. Helen says she's using Move AVI or Movavi Slide Creator. It's really great. Oh, okay. Good. I'm writing that down right now on my post-it note, because I think you also said that you were playing around with eMaze, right? And someone else I think is using eMaze currently. So yeah, I'd love to check out all these different presentation tools. But yeah, choose one that's appropriate. Choose one that you're comfortable with. Okay, lots of people use PowerPoint. That's fine. I'm not anti-PowerPoint, by the way. I have no issue with PowerPoint. PowerPoint is great. I just get concerned because sometimes PowerPoint leads to those bad presentation habits that we've been talking about avoiding all month. In terms of key concepts, okay, make sure that your presentation has a beginning, middle, and end. I'm currently responding to someone's presentation, and I'm reminding this person of exactly that. And actually, if you're using something like PowerPoint and you're recording slide by slide, I still recommend sitting down and actually scripting your voiceover entirely first. That just ensures that you actually have a cohesive single piece, right? And then, sure, if it needs to be broken up and recorded bit by bit, or arranged in such a way that it matches specific slides, that's fine. I do get a little bit concerned when people jump in and start recording bit by bit, slide by slide, because that can be a bit choppy, which I'm okay with in terms of the technical choppiness, because I can obviously still envision how the overall presentation would work together. But yeah, the entire voiceover piece shouldn't feel choppy, though. So yeah, sit down, because if you write something in its entirety, then it probably will have a sense of beginning, middle, and end. Okay, and then it's your job to sort of adapt it and have it match the particular slides. And you might find yourself editing, revising, adding or removing parts of the script, certain slides. Okay, but make sure that it's working as a cohesive whole. Ideally, you should have a star moment, right? A particular moment in your presentation that you're very proud of because you put a lot of effort into it. Maybe there's a specific slide where the combination of visuals and what you're saying to match those visuals you think is terrific. Maybe the way that you phrase things or frame things is awesome. Maybe you decided to use, for example, repeatable sound bites, right? Actually crafting what you have to say in a very specific way. But yeah, hopefully there's a moment in your presentation that you're especially proud of. We've talked about effective visuals all month. Even here, like, I'm being kind of lazy. I have to admit, I just opened up PowerPoint, and I guess maybe I should maybe avoid choosing a template and just, I'm sorry, I put this together quickly. I have to admit, I'm breaking my own rule. Always plan what you're going to do, put maximum effort into it, and I kind of did this quickly. But even so, I mean, I did think about, I ran to CompFight actually, and found this blank post-it note, and I think it's a cute idea, right? Post-it note, reminders, and I chose a font that imitates scripted writing. So yeah, I think it's cute. Latasha says, do we need to say what our star moment is? I named one in the presentation. Yeah, I mean, if you want to when you submit it and you just want me to know what you think your star moment is, that's fine. But yeah, you certainly shouldn't actually literally say it in the presentation, right? Because your audience would have no idea what that means. But sure, if you want to let me know, that's great. Where are we? Yeah, and follow basic design principles. Okay, I don't grade too heavily on this. I just want some awareness that students are paying some attention to making things look pretty or nice or organized. And if you're doing that, that's fine. I just don't want to see things just thrown onto the page, thrown onto the slide, right, with little thought of arrangement or how things look. So just make things pretty, clean. Create a script. Okay, everybody should be working from a script. Not notes. Okay, notes, that to me is still kind of winging it, because sure, you have notes, but you have to sort of fill in how you're going to speak that information. And unless it's scripted, you're going to stumble and say and that's not what we want. Okay, we want a professional delivery here, which means you have to script what you say. Record your script in chunks. This is important because it's tough to get through 3 minutes without stumbling. As a matter of fact, I usually record things in 20-second chunks usually, or let's say I have a script that's 6 paragraphs. Well, that'd be kind of long. Let's say 5 paragraphs in total. I might record 1 paragraph at a time, then bring it into, for me, iMovie, and then I can play around with the slides. because you can go in and set how long you want the slide to stay up for, so you can have it change to match exactly what you're saying. But yeah, I record 20 seconds at a time, and even to get through a single paragraph, sometimes I screw up. And then it gets worse, because every time you tell yourself not to screw up, that just increases your chance of screwing up. So sometimes you don't even make it through a sentence or two without screaming out an obscenity and then having to start all over again. But yeah, imagine trying to do that for the entire 3 minutes. Okay. So yeah, record things in chunks. And by the way, I'm going to get away from the presentation for a second and highlight, let's see, activities. It was the discussion board for, is it this week or last week? I think it's this week, right? This guy here, the First Draft Community Board, where basically you can share your thoughts about how things are going, ask questions. Because I did write a long response to someone. Yeah, Marjorie, and I even changed the font so it'd stand out more. I gave lots of tips here on recording. Okay. The simplest way for PowerPoint is, of course, to just record slide by slide. But I did give advice on how to record things, yeah, I guess more ambitiously. I have no problem with people who record slide by slide. But yeah, if you want to eliminate that choppiness, there are other options you can use. And here's a link to pretty detailed information step by step about how to do that. But yeah, there are tools you can use where you can record bit by bit. That's what I'm trying to say, that you can record in chunks so you don't have to feel this pressure to get it all down in one take. Latasha says, how do I put them in my presentation? Well, Latasha, I think your presentation did have voiceover, right? I remember watching yours. I mean, the slides change and your voice is matching, I think. Don't I have that right? I can't remember. Did you record yours slide by slide, or I don't... Oh, you were talking about moving images. I'm not sure what moving images you're referring to, though. Right? Moving images can be just about anything. In PowerPoint, you can use their basic animations you can include, right? So you can have elements appear in different ways. So, right? So that's that animation. People are helping out. Samantha says, copy and paste is what I've done in the past with animations, but you can save them in your computer and open the file as a picture. Yeah, there's ways to import things too. You can also import audio. I forget where that is. Insert audio, right? And then you can, if you have your recording from a file, you can just drag it in. Here's video that you can drag in. And I guess there's something for images too. Not sure where that is. But yeah, it's here. Click around. Oops. I just did something to my control panel to make it disappear. Oh no. Hold on. Okay, there we go. We're back. You all disappeared for a second there. Anyway, there's a long note here about recording. Okay, so be sure to check that out, because I realize not everybody is familiar with how to record. But yeah, the simplest, like if you know, I shouldn't say it so harshly, but if you know absolutely nothing, you can always go to slideshow, right? This, I believe, records the entire presentation. So if you click on it, it literally starts a timer, so you can start speaking out loud. But there is a function that allows you to record slide by slide. You know what? I'm not going to hunt for it now. It's there. The students always find it. But okay, let me get back to my presentation, because I'm almost lying. And oh, actually, there's Marjorie's presentation. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Where's mine? There we go. Okay, we're almost done. Where were we? Oh, okay, yeah. Recording your script in chunks. Make sure that the voiceover is polished and professional. Okay, so listen to it. You'll catch things like, is the recording too soft? Is it too loud? One of the sample presentations I sent, you can't hear them at first. And then it does increase in volume, but it's still difficult to hear if you're not listening through headphones. So yeah, listen back to what you record, and also listen back to hear the energy, the rhythm of your own voice. Are you speaking too fast? That happens a lot when people are nervous, in particular. Or are you speaking far, far too slow? Are you speaking with the right amount of energy? Do you sound, I mean, at best, you should sound neutral. But yeah, you don't want to sound apathetic, which is just a fancy way of saying that you shouldn't come across sounding like you don't care or that you can't be bothered. So yeah, listen to what you've recorded. Make sure that it's polished and professional. If possible, use a headset or mic. Like right now, I have a Logitech headset on that has a mic that's right in front of my mouth. If you don't, try to find the quietest place you can possibly record from. And I mean quiet, because I've had presentations where people must have thought that they were in a quiet environment. And then in one case, I heard, I think, the Eagles song Hotel California playing off in the distance. So not only did I have to tell him that that was coming through in his presentation, but technically it's a copyright violation because their song is being used in the presentation, even though it was accidental. So yeah, if you're using a laptop, your laptop will have its own interior microphone, or it should, so it can pick up whatever you say. But yeah, using a mic or a headset kind of eliminates that issue. And still, even if you're using a headset or mic, you should choose a comfortable and quiet location to record from. Okay, you'd be amazed how much stuff can come through if you're not in an absolutely silent environment. Let's see. Proofread your work. Yeah, make sure that's free of errors. I mean, these are presentations that should be keeping text at a minimum. So think how poorly it seems if there's a misspelled word, or even if there's something awkward, like capitalization is inconsistent, or sometimes you're using punctuation, sometimes not, or there is enough text that it does kind of stand as a sentence, but there's absolutely no punctuation, even though punctuation is needed. Yeah, that's kind of bad, because those are things that will stick out like a sore thumb to your audience, because if there's not much text to look at anyway, and what text does exist has errors, yeah, that looks bad. And I've already mentioned the last one, right? Try to find time to view, listen to your presentation from the perspective of someone who is not you. I also recommend that to students in my English classes. I'm teaching 2 sections of English right now. I always tell them, pretend you're a stranger, a perfect stranger, right? You've just stumbled across this essay, or in this case, a presentation. You're just some plain Jane, just some Joe Schmo. You should be able to, yeah, follow things, make sense out of things, not stumble, not be confused. So try it out. Okay, questions, comments. Oh, there's other thing. There is I mean, it's not graded, except for the sense that if you don't do it, there's a professionalism deduction. There is a reflection essay that you have to hand in. You can consider all the work you've done in this class as part of a portfolio, and the final piece of that portfolio is to write a short reflection. There's a lot of material here, but essentially you're taking these questions here, okay, and composing a short essay. Now, essay means, yeah, you're writing in sentences and paragraphs. So please don't just take a question, copy it, paste it into a Microsoft Word document, answer it, copy and paste the next question, etc. No, just answer these questions in prose. Okay, prose is just a fancy word for sentences and paragraphs. It's pretty basic stuff. What did you expect from the course? What's your biggest takeaway? Right? What was your biggest thing learned? Do you think you've met the requirements of the class, etc.? This is not the course evaluation. That's a separate activity. Okay. And that's the area where you can speak about what you loved or didn't love about the class, right? So this is where you can let loose and talk about how the course either met your needs or didn't. But this one, the reflection is more about literally what you learned, okay? Yeah, so this isn't the space to tell me how much you did not like the course. You have another activity for that. Tosh says, isn't that locked? Let me see. Well, the reflection opens up tomorrow, as does the course evaluation. So yeah, at midnight tonight, these will become available. We just figure that students aren't going to be jumping into these probably this soon. But for people who are eager beavers and want to, yeah, starting tomorrow. How much are they worth of your grade? Well, the course, the reflection essay you have to write based on those, 4 or 5 simple prompts, it's not worth anything. But if you don't do it, there's a professionalism deduction, right? There's 10% of your grade that's for professionalism. And I'm pretty simple. This is only I only take off points if work is entirely missed or significantly late, or if there's just some egregious professionalism slips, right? Inappropriate language, inappropriate behavior. Otherwise, people who do the work and and complete it and do so with effort, you just get 100. Really, I'm not gonna be too picky. Plus, everybody, I swear I'm not kissing anybody's posteriors, but no, this has been a great bunch this month. Last month was too, but this one, I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading, but everybody seems to be not only completing the work, but helping one another out, participating in all the boards, even the ones that aren't officially graded. So, yeah, I assume most people will be getting hundreds for professionalism. So, yeah, if you don't do it, there's a professionalism deduction, but otherwise it's not graded. Does that make sense? Yeah, thank you, Latasha. I love teaching this class because I think it's practical. I think students like practical classes, and I like to see that students come into this class with a much different idea of what presentations are, which is let's choose let's choose a template. Where is that? Right, new presentation. Right, then they choose a template, and they just start typing away, blah, and then you add a slide. Right, where's my thing for? Right, and they say step one. And they start clicking text. Right, point number one. Blah 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 blah. Point number two, and literally they're just all the content is on the slides, and they're just reading off the slides. And if I can get people to stop doing that and instead switch to a completely different technique, then yeah, I think I've done my job. And really, that's my main goal. I just want people to stop doing this and switch to a different kind of system that I think is a lot more creative, a lot more enjoyable, a lot more rewarding for your audience. And even though you might not think you'll create presentations, you never know. You'd be amazed how many meetings there are where maybe you're asked to lead a discussion. And sure, maybe you want a visual element, PowerPoint, Keynote. Now you know how to do it without just slapping bullet points on slides. Okay. Yeah, Helen, we've covered a lot in a few weeks. And get used to it. That's how all courses are here. They're marathons. Oh, excuse me. No, they're sprints, not marathons. The entire course of study might feel like a marathon, but individual classes last 4 weeks. So yeah, they're sprints, and they move fast. And the good news is it's over before you know it. The bad news is, yeah, for those 4 weeks, you were kept pretty busy. Instructors too, by the way. When it says it's only one class to focus on. Yeah, that's helpful. I was under the, I don't know why. I thought that sometimes you take 2 courses at a time. Is that normal? Every single month for your entire program, it will always be 1 class at a time? Because that definitely makes it, maybe I'm confusing with campus. Okay, campus is 2 at a time. Online is 1. Yeah, 1 definitely helps because, don't get me wrong, the campus students too are busy and often have jobs or families, but the online people, my gosh, they have to somehow fit all this into their already busy framework, right? I mean, I'm not going to ask personal questions like who has family or partners or spouses or children, but yeah, and some people, most have jobs, some have 2 jobs, and they have to figure out how to fit time into their schedule to complete activities and do readings and complete the activities with care. So yeah, I'm very well aware of the challenge. I'm not saving this. This terrible presentation. Okay, any other questions about what we have to do for this week over the course overall? Because this is it. This is our final session. So people who feel like they know what to do, you're free to go enjoy the rest of your evening. Look for my feedback on your draft either tonight or tomorrow. Okay. In my announcement, I already pointed out that, yeah, for this assignment, I need to hit that 72-hour turnaround time. I will get back to the inspirational presenter discussion. Yeah, I couldn't fit it in, literally. After grading all your planning documents, then I had to grade, 50 some odd English essays. And now your drafts have come in and I have to focus on those. But I will get back to that, okay? They don't take terribly long to grade, but they do take some time. And that's worth 5%. So just assume that if you did pretty decent effort on that, you should receive hopefully a decent grade, and it's worth 5%. But this one is worth much more. How much is this worth? Yeah, 15%. So that's more important right now. Then I'll go back and grade the 5% thingy. Okay. So thank you very much for attending. I'm going to hang out a little bit and answer questions if people have them. And I'll keep the recording going for a little bit too, in case someone asks a question that maybe someone who's viewing this after the fact could benefit from. Otherwise, thank you. And I look forward to seeing your final projects. Helen says, are you looking for a very different final presentation than the initial draft? In general, I would say no, in the sense that it shouldn't probably change course much. It all depends on my feedback. And I know that's frustrating because I haven't responded to yours yet, for instance. In general, the ones that are in pretty strong shape shouldn't be changing drastically. I mean, yeah, there are some people who have not as much in place. And of course, they'll change things quite a bit for the final. But even then, I don't think am I looking for something very different? No, not necessarily. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes I have students who come close to nailing it on the draft. I had one last month. The guy but he had a background in, I think, what was it? Radio. He had a radio background, like literally as a radio announcer. So imagine how easy it is for him to do voiceover and script voiceover and deliver it professionally. So yeah, his was already in fine shape. So no, this isn't one of those things where the final presentation is obviously a continuation of this draft. So you're polishing, you're improving, you're fixing based on both what I have to say and your classmates, and you're improving what you have in place. But no, I'm not expecting something entirely different. I noticed the finals were 20%, so you need to work extra hard for the final one. Well, yeah, you kind of do have to work extra hard. But yeah, Helen, you'll have to wait until I get comments to you. I apologize. I mean, I know you're probably going to be, well, maybe not so patiently waiting for my feedback, and we'll see him. Maybe he'll come tonight. I'll try to push myself. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to summarize. I'd say most students, the draft is a draft, and sometimes it's in stronger shape, um, but it's clearly unfinished. So yeah, the 20% is because there's still work to do. And I see some amazing work. I mean, I see, yeah, the drafts. I mean, I shouldn't reveal too much of my grading philosophy, but I mean, the draft, I take it for what it is. If it's largely in place, and I think that a decent effort was made. That's always impossible to determine, but I try anyway. Um, yeah, I don't grade too harshly. It's when things are missing. Um, or maybe there's only like 2 or 3 slides and I don't even have a script to work from. That's when maybe grades dip. Uh, but the draft is a draft, so I understand it's not the finished piece. So that's why there's so much weight for the final submission, because this should be your polished, finished project. This is what you were saying is, this is my finished piece. This is the best I can possibly do. And yeah, for the draft, I don't necessarily see that. Okay. Any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So for the people watching at home, thank you so much.